Hey friends, what's good? Welcome to Storytime. I'm just going to grab a glug out of my old English roses cup because I am 104. Anyways, how are you guys doing today? Thanks for joining me. And also, I'm just going to get it out of the way. Subscribe, like, comment, hype. I don't know what any of that even means, but join my channel. I'm just going to tell stories that are usually nostalgic and completely irrelevant, but I'm having fun. So, anyways, today's story is about ham radio. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with ham radio or what they call amateur radio, is using a radio to communicate with the rest of the world, kind of like the ones they use in the military. So my dad was a ham, and he was a ham my whole life, and it was one of the most exciting things I've ever been part of as a child to get involved with dad while he was on the radio. Because, I mean, we spoke to everybody around the world. I think my dad spoke to every single country in every corner and even Santa. I talked to Santa Claus. I'm sure my brother did too, but we got to um, we got to speak to people at the North Pole, and when we found out Santa was a ham, that changed our lives because we got to actually talk to him. So I'm like probably one of the very few people that have spoken with Santa Claus. I'm never going to forget that. So, as a ham, my dad used to do CQ contests, which were really fun to me. Like I'm a total nerd when it comes to this electronic stuff and this digital stuff's way different than how we were raised. So everything was so analog and lo-fi and stuff back in the day. And dad was really into electronics. Like this guy could fix and build radios and towers and you name it. He was always into that sort of thing. So I just grew up around it. And I remember doing the CQ contest, which was like a contest where you sat for hours. I'm thinking 10 hours. Dad would sit on the radio and you would try to accumulate as many other ham calls as you could. So if you would probably talk to like one guy every 2 minutes and you'd write it in a logbook. And I don't know what the gist of it was. I don't know why these guys did this. I don't know if it was like someone was going to win a prize. I don't think so. I don't think anybody ever won anything. But I think what they were trying to do was just build up their communication with the rest of the world. So I remember talking to every country. Probably by the time I was about 14 or 15, I had spoken to every single country in the world because I would sit with dad while he was on the radio, and it was kind of a family thing. You could sit and listen. And as nerdy as that sounds, sitting and listening with your dad on a radio all day, I probably drew. I probably sat there and did some drawings and hung out with dad. But after a while, he felt very comfortable with letting me have the microphone. So I would sort of fill in during the times where he says, I got to go get a coffee, go to the bathroom. I need you to fill in for me. So I would sit there. I didn't have a call. I was too young, but I would use my dad's call and I would get on the radio and I'd say, CQ contest, CQ contest. This is V7BYS, blah, 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 blah. And then I would get back a call. So a person would call me from Germany and say I'm such and such, and I would write it in the book and I'd put the date and the time. It was just a hilarious thing to be doing, like monitoring something so irrelevant to anything. I really don't think it was used for anything except for just practicing being on the radio. So my dad had the most beautiful gear. Like his radios were top of the line. We probably like $100,000 worth of radio gear in the one room. So you'd have radios stacked up and lined up and sounds, and it was it was a really different time because that was so entertaining to me, and I absolutely loved it. And my bedroom kind of was bordering my dad's ham shack. He called it the ham shack, and I could hear all day and all night when dad was on the radio. You know the sound on Charlie Brown, the teacher, wah, 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 wah. That's all I heard was wah, 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 wah. And it became kind of ingrained in my life that radio and that stuff was very fun to me. I did get my call sign I think when I was in my early 30s, I am V7 KTT, but I've never used it. I actually haven't owned a radio my whole life, my whole adult life. But we used to use, in the cars and stuff, we had CBs and we also had handhelds. And I'd like to get back into it. I don't have a radio right now, so one day I'll get another or get a radio and use my call. I was just talking to my brother a couple weeks ago and he said he found my call sign online. I guess you can find it to see if it's still up and running, and it was. It's still my call. So I was like, right on. So I'm going to get back into it, but I just wanted to talk about how fun life was back in the day. Like this is probably 1983, 84. And like I said, we didn't have a lot of high tech stuff. I mean, when I was in the house doing that kind of stuff with dad, learning Morse code, I think I was on a Morse code key from the time I was 10, learning Morse code and trying to me, it was a game and it was a lot of fun. It was kind of a challenge. And I think the first time I got into electronics was dad had brought home one of those potato radios from the Radio Shack. And mom used to work at a drugstore which had a Radio Shack attached to it. And anything broken that came back as a broken item or returned, my dad would get that item and he would fix it and he would give it to us as kids and he'd say, okay, well, this is ready to go. You can use it. So we got, remote control cars and walkie talkies and all sorts of stuff because if it was broken, they just were going to return it and my dad would fix it. And I'm not kidding you, we had some of the greatest toys on the planet. But I remember getting it was a potato radio and it had a light. So you could put the potato in and you'd plug it into two diodes and then it would attach to this and then it would turn the light bulb on. That stuff was fascinating. I mean, those were the days when things were simple. I don't even think they'll sell that stuff to kids anymore because they're too dangerous. But I mean, you can eat a Tide Pod and all that kind of stuff. Weird world we live in. Anyway, I don't want to go any further. That's 7 minutes and 11 seconds. And I'm super glad you guys were hanging out with me today. I've got some more stories. I've got so many stories and I'm excited to talk about them with you guys. So join me for the next one and do all that stuff like subscribe, share, comment, and I will see you the next time. All right? God bless. Take care.